Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon, and we're going to talk about tabletop gaming again. We're going to talk about Wizards of the Coast again, and we're going to talk about Thaco the Clown, or Thaco the Clown. Depends on how you want to say it. I'm going to say Thaco the Clown. This grumpy gatekeeping character was introduced in the Wild Beyond the Witchlight book. It just came out, and yes, he's supposed to be a gatekeeper. He's supposed to be a grumpy, old school type character. He does not like children. He is literally gatekeeping, and his name is Thaco. You know, to hit armor class 0, those of you who played old school D&D, 2nd edition in particular, will be familiar with that rule. It does seem to be a dig at old school D&D players, doesn't it? You know, could be tongue-in-cheek, but given a lot of the other shade being thrown at old school players by Wizards of the Coast, I gotta wonder. Well, we're gonna talk about that. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture, news, views, and rants, guys. Over 237,000 subs. Thank you for the support, greatly appreciated. We've been talking about tabletop gaming a lot more than we have in the past, and part of that was brought about because I was trying to get my kids into tabletop gaming, and I did not realize how the scene was now until we did a couple of, I thought, harmless or mostly harmless videos talking about how weird tabletop has gotten and how weirdly political everything has gotten, and it brought some crazies out of the woodwork for sure. We've been dealing with them for the last year or two. So I'm just going to go make more videos now, right? So yeah, D&D has long since left a lot of old school gamers in the dust. They are chasing a new audience. They love their Critical Role crowd, and that's fine. They're selling a lot of books. 5e sells incredibly well. They've announced a 6th edition, I guess. There are rumors that Wizards of the Coast is going to be sold off by Hasbro at some point in the future, that they've been prepping it for sale, possibly to some Chinese company like Tencent, but who knows? Who knows with all of their ridiculous new entertainment guidelines over there, CCP guidelines, if that's going to happen. But there does seem to be a divide between old school gamers and the new breed of D&D tabletop gamer. And I thought this was really interesting. Had somebody, let me see, Ranger Boo, hat tip to you, Ranger Boo plays. You plan on doing a video about Wizards D&D going after old school Renaissance players in their latest crappy adventure module. Seems like Wizards can't stand the competition and want to bring it down. Yeah, there's been some weird stuff going on in tabletop. A lot of old school gamers have left Wizards. They're going out and doing, playing more OSR, homebrew games, or just going back to earlier editions of D&D. Wizards doesn't seem to want the old heads anymore. They're chasing the Tumblr crowd, the Twitter crowd, the Critical Role crowd. And again, that's not Critical Role's fault, I don't think. We did a video actually defending the amount of money that they make on Twitch. They're within their rights to make money, doing what they like to do. And Matt Mercer, I've met him before. He's not a bad guy. He really isn't. But that being said, the scene has definitely changed. It's definitely gotten more political. I mean, we talk about, orcs being racist caricatures now, and entire books being written about race and diversity and inclusion initiatives, sensitivity readers being brought in, just very, very weird stuff. We saw the weird stuff going on with new TSR. That one, new TSR, several videos on that, by the way. You can go out and check those out. When new TSR came on the scene, immediately they got dogpiled by, Wizards defenders, calling them fakes. They're not really TSR, despite having Ernie Gygax on board. They were blasting Ernie Gygax. I mean, it's very, very weird shit, just going on with this scene. So, is Wizards behind it? I don't know. I know that the tabletop scene is very, very hypersensitive. We did a video on, Gaming Goat, the gaming goat for their supposedly racist imagery. This image of a frog is supposedly making the white supremacy signal, even though this is actually taken from a photograph, a real photograph. You're not going to hear that part of it. You're just going to hear what a bunch of racists they are, and lots of drama over that. But we've seen this before. We heard of YouTubers being punched at Gen Con. TSR, again, speaking of TSR, they got preemptively banned from Gen Con. I can tell you right now, I have zero interest in ever attending Gen Con, and I'm sure the the feeling is mutual. But lots of weird shit going on in this scene, which I was completely oblivious to. I had no idea. I am a lapsed tabletop gamer. I used to be heavy into D&D and AD&D, late 80s, early 90s. Some of the best memories I have growing up, playing D&D with my friends, and I wanted to get my kids into it, and I'm just like, wow, what the hell happened? Anyway, this is kind of knowing all the backstory. This I don't think was just a tongue-in-cheek jab. I think this was a deliberate. We're going to create a clown named Thaco, and he's a gatekeeper. And womp womp clowns, you old heads, you get with the times, man. It's totally awesome to have prom in D&D. And of course the media loves it. Screen rant. D&D's The Wild Beyond the Witchlight mocks the game's worst rule. The Wild Beyond the Witchlight campaign for Dungeons & Dragons takes a shot at the most obnoxious rule in the history of the entire game. Takes a shot at Thaco, one of the worst rules in the history of the game. The people who played Advanced Dungeons & Dragons or the first two Baldur's Gate games will remember the horrors of Thaco, which was a major rule that was part of the combat system in the second edition of D&D. I remember it very well, and I liked it. Maybe I have nostalgia goggles on, but that is the AD&D I grew up playing. Thaco was one of the worst D&D rules in the history of the game. Thaco stands for to hit armor class 0. In the current edition of D&D, 5e, the only one that counts. Hits in combat are resolved with a very simple mathematical formula. The player has an attack bonus, they roll d20, and if the number is the same or higher than the enemy's armor class score, it's a hit. If the roll is lower, it's a miss. In Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, the player's armor class was lowered by stronger armor and spells. A character's Thaco score was used to determine what they needed to roll to hit armor class 0, with every number above or below determining what other armor class scores they will hit when they roll d20. It was abandoned in the third edition of D&D and has never returned. Too much math. Only those who play the modern remasters of the old Black Isle RPGs based on Advanced Dungeons & Dragons like Baldur's Gate are likely to run into it. Thaco has now become the subject of mockery within D&D itself. The Wild Beyond the Witchlight campaign starts off with players visiting the Witchlight Carnival, where they can encounter all kinds of colorful characters, including furries, including rabbit people. There's rabbit people and all kinds of crazy stuff in this. One character who isn't so welcoming is Thaco the Clown, who is described as an angry old man who hates children. Thaco is one of the oldest residents of the Witchlight Carnival, and he needs to paint a grin on his face because he doesn't have one. The book goes out of its way to describe Thaco as a jerk, which evokes similar feelings to how people remember Thaco. The Thaco name is likely to go over the heads of most modern D&D players. Yeah, no shit. As it was abandoned in 2000. The Wild Beyond the Witchlight features all kinds of references to the history of D&D, including shoutouts to the Dungeons & Dragons cartoon from the 80s, so the Thaco nod isn't out of place. Anyone who's concerned about Thaco returning needn't worry. The creators of the game know that it's something best left in the past. They weren't the creators of the game. Current rights holders of the game. They did not create D&D. The people who are running Wizards of the Coast right now did not create D&D. In fact, they seem to have genuine disdain for people associated with the actual creation of D&D. It's really a very, very strange thing to me. Even Disney acknowledges Walt Disney, despite people having problems with some of the things Walt Disney might have said and done during his lifetime. There seems to be a concerted effort on the part of Wizards to distance themselves as far from Gary Gygax and company as possible. It's strange and disgusting. Comicbook.com says, it's a clever nod to the past. It's a clever nod. No, I think it's a dig. I think it's a dig. If you go out to some of the message boards here, Ian World, Thaco's a retired clown who doesn't want people touching his stuff. Very subtle, like a brick through a window. Burley, no, like Thaco. Okay, that's funny as hell. Love it. And some people do. I talk about him, getting people off of his lawn and stuff, but he is a literal gatekeeper. He's a literal gatekeeper in the game, I guess. Do I think this was intentional? Absolutely. Because there's a lot of talk about D&D and tabletop being inaccessible and gatekept, and I agree. I think tabletop is being gatekept, but not by the people the media is claiming as gatekeeping. I think that there is a group of people in the scene right now who have kind of co-opted the scene and are keeping old heads out or going out of their way to antagonize old heads. They don't want them in their scene. They're not welcome to their table. But there's a lot of talk about how people have been kept out of tabletop, people have been kept out of comics, people have been kept out of video games. It goes on and on and on. And, I'm not saying that it's unilaterally true that, people aren't necessarily being kept out, or certain people aren't being kept out by other groups of people. I mean, that's just kind of human nature, unfortunately. But there are some, general statements being made about old school players. No, they're a bunch of old white men. It's like, come on, guys, seriously. But yeah, I mean, if anybody had any doubt as to whether or not Wizards, appreciated their original customer base, there's your answer. You're a bunch of clowns. You're nothing but a bunch of clowns to Wizards of the Coast. Hey, there are lots of other options out there. I'm just saying. I'm going to wrap this one up, guys. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, and we'll talk later.